Welcome back to a new post today. And today we heard our Minister of External Affairs Jaishankar speaking about India's candidature as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. So he said that there is a growing influence all over the world that favors India's inclusion into the United Nations Security Council, which is made up of only 5 permanent members, that is France, Russia, UK, US and China. And in this stature of India as a permanent member to the United Nations Security Council will definitely be an added advantage, and also increase the geopolitical clout of India world over, and it will have many advantages too. So India has been a contender for the United Nations Security Council permanent seat, just not now but also as early as 1940s during the first Prime Ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru. And it was in 1949 that Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had taken this issue to the President of United States, but then in return for supporting India, United States had put in its own demand, and that is why we did not accept it for the seat in return for that. So that's because non-interference or neutrality is definitely one of our pillars of a foreign policy. So it was today that Jaishankar excluded confidence that India will get a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, but then there will need a lot of hard work and also intensified efforts for this. Now, it has not been without any work. India has not been without any vocal support for its candidature to the United Nations Security Council from our neighbors to close partners, and also France, Russia, along with US, have always been open about supporting India's candidature to the United Nations Security Council as a permanent member. However, China has been against us, and China says that if it has to support India's candidature as a permanent member to the United Nations Security Council, then it wants even Pakistan to be so. So it is a support of Pakistan to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Now, let me tell you, these 5 members have been the permanent members since 1945, since the United Nations took over from the League of Nations, and at that time we had only 40 independent countries, and so the permanent membership of the Security Council matched the geopolitics at that time. But now today we have almost 193 independent nations recognized by the United Nations, and only 5 members enjoying the veto power in the Security Council, which is one of the principal organizations, 6 principal organizations of the United Nations. Is definitely an imbalanced stature in this multipolar world today. Recently, it was Elon Musk also has been very vocal in the support of India's candidature to the United Nations Security Council as a permanent member. Now, let me tell you that there are certain rules and procedures that need to be followed for increasing the members of the United Nations Security Council as permanent members, along with the amendment of the United Nations Charter of 1945. To become a permanent member of the UNSC, a country will need the backing of 2/3 of the members of the United Nations General Assembly, another principal organ, and all the P5 nations, that is France, Russia, UK, US and China. While the first requirement of the 2/3 support from the General Assembly countries is very, very easy to achieve, the second one is very tough, because not all the 5 members, hold veto power, and if one member does not accept, then the procedure cannot go through. So there is also another grouping called as United for Consensus, or the Coffee Club, that is already against the expansion of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Thus, if one country decides to support India's proposal, and even if it is passed, then the other 4 members of the Security Council have to pass it. And along with that, let me tell you that China has been against it. So if China vetoes, then the procedure cannot go forward. However, before this, the United Nations Charter has to be amended of the 1945, which includes amending stating that the expansion of the United Nations Security Council permanent seats. Now, besides the 5 members, United Nations Security Council also consists of 10 non-permanent members, 5 from Africa and Asian nations, 1 from Eastern Europe, 2 from Latin America and Western Europe. So the members are geographically represented as non-permanent members. The United Nations Security Council permanent membership are elected by 2/3 of the majority, and 2 criteria are taken into consideration before electing a country, and India has been a member of the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council almost 8 times very recently. as well. One of the contribution has to be to maintenance of international peace and security, and this is defined by the financial aid and also troop contribution to peacekeeping all over the world. Apart from that, leadership on matters of regional security is also looked into before deciding on the membership of the non-permanent Security Council member. Another criteria is equitable geographical distribution. The presidency of the Security Council rotates monthly wise, and India has been elected as a non-permanent member of the Security Council almost 8 occasions, that is 50, 67, 72, 77, 84, 91, 2011, and very recently 2020 as well. So the first talk of India being included as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council came up during the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's visit to United States in 1949. The US said it would back India's bid for a permanent seat in return of the country's cooperation against Soviet Union or Russia, and Nehru reportedly rejected the offer and instead backed China's entry into the UNSC. A second offer came from the Soviet Union in 1955, and even at that time there were some reasons for which India did not accept this as well. India has repeatedly stressed for the reforms of the United Nations Security Council and other organs also, citing the current global realities and its growing geopolitical stature, which was even evident during the recent G20 summit, where it pulled off the diplomatically challenging task of reaching a consensus on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So apart from this, originally let me tell you that there were 11 members of the Security Council, 5 permanent and 6 non-permanent, and in 1963 the General Assembly recommended an amendment to the charter, and this non-permanent membership increased to 10 at present. So 5 from the African and the Asian states, 1 from Eastern European states, 2 from Latin American states, and 2 from West European and other states. India has also been the president of the United Nations Security Council on a rotational basis very recently in 2023 as well, and we have taken some big steps, especially with regard to terrorism as well. India says that it has contributed a lot to the troop and also is playing a very important role in the geopolitics of the world, and therefore is contending for a permanent member of the Security Council. Let me tell you, we are in a geopolitical era which is very different from what we were at 1945. There were 2 poles of power at that time, but now we are in a multipolar world today. Many countries contending for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Other than India, there's Italy, there's Germany, there's Japan, and there's also Egypt as well, along with Brazil. So these are some of the members who want to be a part of the permanent members of the Security Council to reflect the geopolitical changes of the current world. And I thought these important points would be really helpful if I discuss this with you, as this is a topic of discussion, and definitely India aims to be a part of the permanent member of the Security Council. If you did like these few points, please do like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.